Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're here to talk about another movie. I'm here with Hayden. I'm Tyler. Hayden, did you have an imaginary friend growing up?
I did, dude.
Yeah.
So this is extremely deep lore. You may have to throw a picture up on screen for an asset for this because it's not really in the popular culture lexicon. So you ever heard of HR Puff and stuff?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So for those who don't know, it was like a really weird, surreal kids TV show of like the late 60s, early 70s. And my dad watched it as a kid, so he put me on a bunch with like back when Netflix had DVDs, we get like a season at a time of that
Okay.
show.
Yep.
So Jimmy was my imaginary friend, the kid from that show.
Nice.
So
yeah,
deep cut.
That is awesome. So I think if you had an imaginary friend growing up, like most kids probably did at some point or another, like there's something in this movie that's going to resonate with you.
For sure.
And this movie's review scores out there in the interwebs have been all over the place, mostly on the low side of all over the place. But I think we're going to have a discussion about there's a lot of things to like about this movie. It does have its flaws, but there's a lot to like here. So I guess let's jump in. This is John Krasinski writing, directing, and a very big departure from, A Quiet Place and some of the other stuff.
People actually talk in this movie, if you can believe it.
Which sometimes isn't my favorite part, but also
fair enough.
Not always bad. But essentially what we're getting here is the story of a girl. It is the same actress that is in The Walking Dead.
As Judith, yeah.
As Judith, yep. So she is 12 years old in the movie. I think in real life 17, so that's a bit of a stretch, but I don't know, it worked. It worked okay. Anyway, she growing up has parents. You can see the home videos. They're like the type of parents that really just really embrace like their child having this fun imagination and really embracing that creative side. We see that, spoilers right away, but this is like literally in the first 5 minutes of the movie. So, but mom ends up passing away. So it's her and dad, played by John Krasinski. He ends up going into the hospital for a heart procedure. And that's where our story kind of kicks off. So the girl is staying with the grandmother while dad is in the hospital and discovers this, box full of like stuff that that she had used in the past to do a lot of drawing, et cetera, et cetera. And then our story just kind of kicks off. She starts seeing like these cartoonish characters going around. And we find out that they are imaginary friends that have been forgotten about by the kids they befriended years ago. And they're searching for new, matches. And that's essentially where we kick off. She jumps into trying to find matches for these imaginary friends. Ryan Reynolds is helping with this. So I guess we'll just jump in there. What did you think of the premise of the movie and kind of how it got going?
I thought it was really cute. Obviously, like very adorable, visually really interesting. I like the character designs a lot. And I think it's cool because I remember when I was a kid, there were a lot of movies like this or TV shows like this where you'd have kind of like bizarre different types of animals or characters, creatures, and interacting with like a normal person. But usually it was either like 2D hand drawn over the frame or you got like puppets or people in mascot costumes. So I think it was really cool that like, because I a lot of the time don't like a lot of CGI in movies, but I think it worked here a lot because the technology's evolved in a way that you can visualize like the most crazy, surreal, ridiculous characters, and they look like believable enough, right? Like they don't stick out. They do stick out, but they in a way that makes sense, right? For
it helps that they're supposed to be cartoony, right?
For sure.
And
for sure.
So, but yeah, I never sat back there and like, oh, I'm just so obviously watching a CGI movie, right? Like it didn't feel like that. I think back to like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, if you've seen that. And
Mhm.
that was one of the first times that you really saw this like marriage between live action
Like a blended media.
and
Yeah.
animation. Yeah. And it's just we've come so far since then. And Roger Rabbit's
Mhm.
great, but it's just come so far from a
Absolutely.
technological standpoint in movies. So you can tell a story like this today. Um, Ultimately, in the stories about embracing the imaginations we had as a kid and
Mhm.
finding that again. And ultimately that's what the main character has to do.
Yeah.
She's lived through pain, she's lived through heartbreak, and we come to learn that she's sort of shut everything off. Early on, she's like, I'm not a kid, I'm 12, right? And I'm like, the
Yeah.
rest of us are like, kind of a kid, but
Yeah, that line gave me a good laugh for sure.
yeah.
But it's cute and it's so true because that's always like I feel like every kid has that attitude at some point. Like I've heard like my um I guess nieces in law say like I'm not a kid, I'm 8 now or whatever. And it's just like, okay. Like, it's funny, but it's real and there's kids trying to I think especially now you see a lot of kids trying to grow up faster than they should. And you're sitting here as an adult being like, you're in such a beautiful time. Like, just enjoy it and embrace it. And I think this movie hit that message really well.
Yeah, totally agree. I think part of it too, like I said, she's endured a lot of pain and heartbreak losing
Hmm.
her mom, and she's felt like this need to grow up faster, right? And you
Yeah.
see, and one of the things I really love, like I'll be 100% honest, John Krasinski in this movie was probably my least favorite part, but
Yeah.
one thing I did really love was the dynamic that her dad is still like trying so hard to bring the kid out in her, right?
Hmm.
Um, and to let her be a kid and have fun and have those things. I
Yeah.
did feel like it was over the top at times. I
For
know
sure.
we're split on the kind of duet with the IV
Oh, you
in the
didn't like
hospital.
that?
I mean, I didn't hate it, but I also felt like it was maybe too long. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
do most people act like that when they're about to have heart surgery?
No, and
I don't know. I hope
it
not
was an
to, but
intentionally
yeah.
goofy moment. And it's funny to me because I feel like people talk a lot about like artists who are also actors, right? Or just people in general who write
Mhm.
stories. And a lot of times there's like super obvious like original character self inserts. And
Yeah.
John Krasinski writing and casting himself as just like the best dad possible in all of his
Right.
movies will never cease to amuse me because he's so one dimensional. Like there's no layers to that character at all. It's just like he's the best dad ever.
Pretty
Like
much. Yep.
period. Full stop.
Yep.
So
Uh, yeah. I mean, I like John Krasinski a lot. I've liked
I do
almost everything
too.
he's done. I just felt like that part of this. I honestly I felt the first third or so of this movie kind of was significantly not as good as the rest, but I think part of that and some of the issue I had with it is that as an audience, we don't know what the hell's going on half the time. Um,
Yeah. I feel like you don't really know where this movie's going until like
right.
there's like a definitive moment where the second act starts, right? Which we'll get into later and get more into spoiler
Mhm.
territory. And I feel like before that, I can totally see where you're at, where you just kind of don't really know like what is going on or what you're supposed to be invested in. And I don't know, I was already along for the ride because I just thought the performances were really good and I was
Yeah.
sold on the characters, especially the main actress immediately.
Mhm.
Um but I definitely see that I think some audiences will be frustrated or just be like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and I think for me it took a good half an hour to really get the ifs on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And in a movie that's less than 2 hours long, I feel that might be a little bit too long. I think that's one of my biggest like
Yeah.
drawbacks here in a movie that I ultimately like. But
Yeah.
I think just to be fair, the allure of this film is the ifs, right? And the performances in some of the ifs are just tremendous, and we'll get to that. But
For sure.
I think when they're the centerpiece, to not have them on screen for almost a full half hour of the movie, like that to me is something that I would have liked to see them on screen a little faster, but
I can see
especially
that, but I
yeah,
kind of
when we don't know
respect
the
it.
full context of what's happening.
Right. I respect it as like a filmmaking decision, though, to be like, just because this is a kids movie doesn't mean we need to get like all of the flashy colors in your face immediately, right?
Sure.
But
Yep.
I mean, that's the most interesting audience I'm curious to see the reaction to, because obviously, like children who are watching this movie are not logging it on Letterboxd or getting their scores at a critic.
Yeah,
So,
and I do feel, I mean, we'll get to it in the score piece, I guess.
mhm.
Some of the negative scores here are more of a demonstration of just I think the lack of imagination a lot of adults have now. You know,
Yeah.
we get so serious in our lives, right? And so
Mhm.
something where you kick back and it's like this is just like innocent fun and with a good message to it.
Mhm.
Um about being a kid even when you're not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
Some of the most touching scenes in this movie are when adults are reunited with their ifs and recognize them again and
Yeah.
how they light up. So, you know, seeing that, and I think that some of that imagination, like everything is so serious all the time,
Mhm.
in our day-to-day like news cycle and everything, it's like it's hard to embrace something like that. But
Yeah.
um I guess performances, let's go there. So we have is it Cailee
I
Fleming?
think
How do we
Cailee Fleming.
Cailee
Yeah.
Fleming, is that how we say it? Okay,
Yeah.
my bad. Um so plays our main character here, B, and she's great in this movie.
Yeah.
Um
She's probably like the best young actor working right now. And I've thought like even back in like because how old would she have been when they introduced her in The Walking Dead? Like 10 or 11 or something?
yeah.
She was like, young. And I've always been impressed with just because that was playing Judith is such a serious, dramatic role,
Mhm.
right? So we've known this kid has chops for years, but getting to see them be in like a more wholesome, childish, there's a lot of like wonder and whimsy. Like she just is such a likable character in this movie. But I think like she did a really good job balancing like all of the cute awkwardness of being a kid with also like I think there are genuine moments where she has profound things to say and
Yeah.
you get a lot of nuance in the performance because I feel like there are times where the character's saying one thing, but you can tell visually from looking at her what she actually feels or what the subtext
Mhm.
of that is. And it's a hard thing to do for a trained actor who's been in this for a while, let alone for, someone who's a teen or young adult at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, just the fact that she never, ever, ever seems out of her league in a scene with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
Um, she absolutely holds her, and sometimes like absolutely steals the show in those scenes.
100%.
So
Yeah. It's
I
impressive,
think it
honestly.
really is because Ryan Reynolds is not a hack, right? Like
No.
Ryan Reynolds has pretty good range too, by the way, because we're about to get a really violent superhero movie with Ryan Reynolds later this summer, right?
Mhm.
After we get the Innocent Kids movie, you know, so
Yeah.
we're he's got range. So I think to be able to do that is really impressive. Um, John Krasinski, like the role looms large, but there's not that much screen time, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, there's a couple, probably 3 major scenes with him.
mm,
Yeah, and I think he had a good impact. I wonder though, Tyler, would you have liked this character more if it was not like the writer director playing him? Like, does that
no,
sour you a bit?
that didn't factor in for me.
Okay.
I can see where you're coming from. That it can come across as a little like self-serving to make yourself the most like likable dad ever. Um,
For
but
sure.
at the same time, like no, I feel like John Krasinski for me is most at home when he's playing this type of character. Um,
Yeah.
like early Office days too, things like that. Yeah, I that for me, and that's just personal choice, right? Or preference, but
Mhm.
I mean he's fine. I just think that this movie shines more when we're getting the Ryan Reynolds and Fleming dynamic in it,
For sure.
and also
Mhm.
like the grandmother played by, and I forget the name right now. I'm gonna find it.
I
Fiona
really
Shaw.
liked her character a lot.
Yeah, Fiona Shaw, who was in almost all of the Harry Potter films.
Oh, really? Who was
So,
she? I didn't recognize her right away.
yeah,
Was
I
she one
don't
of the
remember.
professors?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
I think anyway.
And
If
she's
Steven was here,
supposed
he'd
to
yell at us.
be, for sure, for sure. And she's supposed to be the late wife's mom, correct?
Yes, that's what I
Okay.
took from it.
Yeah, which like
Um,
they never explicitly hit you with that, but I think it makes that dynamic like so much more powerful to me because like this is a woman who's lost a child but
yep.
still has a relationship with her kid's kid, and I think the fact that even though like John Krasinski's character's wife has passed away, he's still connecting with and caring
Mhm.
about her mother. And I don't know, like I thought that was a really unique dynamic for a movie like this.
I will tell you one thing when I sat in the theater watching this yesterday was that, if you rewind back to like the 90s and maybe early 2000s, even in the 80s, and watch stuff from then, how families
Mhm.
are depicted, right? Versus how the family dynamic is depicted here. It's like such like just genuine like love all the way around. It
Mhm.
is, there's genuine care for everybody. Like Fiona Shaw in this movie is fantastic. She's just that grandmother that like wants to do like anything to make her granddaughter like be happy in life.
Yeah.
But along the way you learn a lot about her too, and you learn that, not only has she lost a daughter, but she's lost other things in her life, dreams that she's had, and other things,
Mhm.
which brings me to like the scene where she's reconnected with her if.
Oh,
And it is probably my favorite scene in this movie.
agreed.
It is
The
so
waterworks
powerful
there
and
for
great.
me, man.
Yeah.
It
So,
fucking killed me. Pardon my
yep.
French.
And the music being put on and just the dance. So we find out that she was a dancer like back in her youth and she loved it. And when you
Mhm.
hear her talk about it, it's great acting. Like you hear her talk about it and just the joy like comes out, right?
Mhm.
Um, so we get to the point where the if is reunited with her in that moment, and it's just such a cool moment, and that's
Yeah.
where this movie really turned for me, um into just really being bought in and loving it.
Yeah.
So, and then we see another one where Blue, who Steve Carell, many people are going to say it's the best performance of the movie, and they wouldn't necessarily be mistaken.
No, he does
um
great.
and when the if he plays Blue is reunited with the now adult who was his kid, also really good, I think.
Yeah.
It,
Did you
yeah,
recognize
go
the
ahead.
actor who played Blue's child, by the way?
I recognize him, but I couldn't like put the name.
I can't remember his last name, but it's Bobby something. He was on SNL for a number of years.
Oh yes, now that you say that, I'm like, yep,
Yeah.
that is
And
him.
I appreciated like there was a lot of weird little like comedy Easter eggs where if you're an adult, you're gonna recognize probably a lot of these voices and of the other ifs. And then there was even like, there was cool stuff to me. Like you see a lot of the New York landmarks that most people would be like oohing and eyeing at, but she's just like a woman on a mission. Like Cailee Fleming does not care. Because at one
Yep,
point they walk past the Radio City Music Hall and
music
the
hall. Yep.
building where they taped the Jimmy Fallon show, and it even says like the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, like filming
Hmm.
tonight or whatever. And it's just so funny that she's just like, I don't care, like I'm working, like
Yep.
uninterested.
Yeah. Um, I just think all of it's great. I think that moment, the grandmother's reunion with her was better for me, but they were both great.
Mm-hmm.
What I really love about Blue's like kid slash adult is he had the look of somebody who's like just been run over by life. Like he is
Mm-hmm.
just lost that joy and imagination. He's stressed. He's like unhappy. He's
Yeah.
just almost he just looks miserable, right? Which was funny when Blue's like, he looks great. We're all like,
Yeah.
wow. Oh, this dude
And
looks like he's
because they
barely hanging on.
yeah, because they have like deliberately like made his hair all a
Hmm.
mess, and they gave him a little bald spot, and he's just sweating like crazy, and he's wearing a suit that's not really holding him flatteringly. So
No. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It was good. So cast wise, just to kind of wrap up that piece, we mentioned Steve Carell, obviously Ryan Reynolds, John Krasinski, Cailee Fleming, but also Emily Blunt is in this, Matt Damon, Vince Vaughn, Louis Gossett Jr., who, if you hang around for the credits, is a very touching tribute to at the end.
Oh, has he
Because
since passed away?
yeah, he passed away very recently.
Oh my god, I
So
didn't realize that. Oh yeah, because I thought his character was really like the big teddy bear was really
he's like
sweet.
the Yoda of ifs, basically.
He is, because he's like the very first one, essentially, right? They say he's 93, and it's like
he's like all worn too. You can see like the spots
I know,
missing,
and he's got like gray in his teddy bear fur, and that that character design was so cute and wholesome to me, because I was thinking like, because they talk about like we gotta go see this guy, we gotta go see like the original, like the OG, if like he'll know what to do, right? And and I was wondering like, what is he gonna be? Because every character design we've seen so far has been very different and zany, and the fact that he's just like an old weathered teddy bear, like it was so cute, but it also broke me a bit.
I know it was. I love just the ifs in general. And well, I think we'll get to that next, but just let me rattle off a couple more names here.
Sorry.
Because this is like no, you're all good. Full cast: Sam Rockwell, Bradley Cooper, Jon Stewart, Amy Schumer, George Clooney, Bill Hader, Keegan-Michael Key, and I have Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who plays a large role in this movie, actually, and is great.
Yeah.
And the greatest movie credit of all time, Brad Pitt.
As Keith,
yeah,
the invisible if who doesn't talk or have a physical appearance.
Yes, never. But when I look at the cast list here online, he's listed. It's fantastic. I love it.
That's hilarious. Do you think they had to pay him for that?
It would be great if he went and did like publicity for it.
They should have. Yeah, I was surprised though to hear you read that list of names, because I didn't recognize a lot of those voices. There were a couple I did. The one that I really recognized was Bill Hader. Yep. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I think a lot of the actors did a really good job. Like a lot of these actors do a really good job at being voice actors, I think, if you can't recognize their voices.
Agree.
But at the same time,
it's not about them.
Right.
It's about the characters,
But you messaged me at one point before we recorded this, like right after you left the movie, and said you thought that like some of the voice talent that was like some of them with their own posters of like the character, and it's like this person as whatever. And you said you thought some of them just like recorded it in like half an hour from home.
Because some of them like are barely have anything to say in this, right? Like they're in it. I think I'm not even looking at that as like a minus. I think that is a credit to John Krasinski and the respect he has probably in the industry to get a list of names like this.
No kidding, right?
Want to come do that.
For sure.
So I think that speaks volumes to that and to the type of movie this is. That you can get that type of list. If I didn't say Vince Vaughn, by the way, him too.
Which one was Vince Vaughn?
He was the dragon.
Oh, okay.
So Jon Stewart was the robot. Bradley Cooper was ice, which was great. That if was fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, the ice in the water.
In the water, yeah, the glass. So yeah, George Clooney was Spaceman. So
that's funny because he was in Gravity, wasn't he? Or am I thinking of someone else?
Was he? Yeah, I think so.
So that's like almost like a little Easter egg of like his career, which is funny.
Also, if I didn't say Matt Damon is Sonny in this. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many massive names in this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I missed some, so apologies to them. But this is a star-studded movie. It is easily the most star-studded movie of the summer. Like, in terms of just pure cast list. But let's talk the ifs, I guess, because they are the centerpiece of the movie. I think they are also like the heart of the movie, because they're what brings the reactions out of B as the movie goes along, right? And they spark this transformation and this like journey that B has. So who's your favorite if in the movie?
Okay, so I think I'm gonna have to go with Phoebe Waller-Bridge's.
Mine
Because
too.
she's like her design is really cool, and it's cool to me that like the designs of the characters kind of reflect like what the kids at the time would have imagined, because she's very much like a early Disney cartoon
Yep.
flapper. Something like you'd see out of Cuphead or something too. So
Yep.
I really like the design there a lot. And I thought she killed it. It was just had a very sweet, like, she had a very like motherly thing going on about her, which later on when you realize that she's like her grand if, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense.
Yeah. I'm really getting sold on Phoebe Waller-Bridge as an actor. I'm like
Yeah.
I am one of the few that thought she was great in Dial of Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
As we get a million thumbs down right now in the video, just like,
Right.
but yeah, I think like she's been great. So I think that's mine too. It's hard to not like Blue, but Blue's just like so clearly the biggest presence
Well,
in more
also
ways than
physically,
one.
it's
Yeah,
huge.
physically, right?
Yeah.
But I think yeah, that story, because of especially how it connects with the grandmother, right? And when she learns it, when B learns it, she's like, well, come on, let's go downstairs and show her. And she's like, it's not like we haven't tried, right? She's like, I've been down
Yeah.
there every day. Um trying to reconnect, because the whole principle of this movie is if you don't believe in the if anymore, you can't see them.
Yeah.
So that's what ended up happening, is her grandmother stopped seeing that character because she stopped believing. So
Right.
Blossom is the character's name.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I like that one a lot. But of the like smaller role ones, the ice was great.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he almost gets drank and then he's like, see, this is my life, this is what I
Yeah.
deal with all the time.
Oh god,
um
and I love that scene where they're interviewing all of the ifs too, because they're looking for a match for the kid in the hospital with
yep,
the broken everything.
everything basically, yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked that kid. I thought because he was like adorable, but he was like also like really awkward, and he said like he had like just really high pitched like sing songy voice, and he said like weird stuff that like
Mhm.
kids just like say that like doesn't make sense. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And so, because really, when they're trying to find a match for all the ifs, they're like showing him all of them, right? Trying to get him to see them all. And so she's like, there's a thing where her and Ryan Reynolds' character, and then the teddy bear, the older teddy bear, the senior among all of them, is like interviewing everybody to have like a big, um, like just like almost like a got talent, trying to figure out who's
Basically, can
the
you see this one? Can you see this
right,
one?
who's the
Yeah.
right fit for him. And they're writing the
Hmm.
description of all of them where it's like where they're from, their purpose, whatever. And the cup of water is just like his kid was just thirsty because he lived in Arizona.
Yep. Right.
And he's like, I wish I just had a cup of ice water all the time. It's so funny.
It is. Um. So, like, cast wise, the ifs are great.
Mhm.
Which scenes stand out to you in this movie? I mean, we talked about the grandmother like being reunited, right? But which other ones?
So the moment that I was really sold, so I swear we're into full spoiler territory here.
Yeah,
So
full spoilers from here on in.
but also this is one of those, this is a weird movie to like I don't think you can spoil this movie.
There
You know
is a
what I mean?
major like development late that
Very
would be
late.
considered a
True.
spoiler. Yeah.
True. Which we haven't gotten to yet, I don't believe, right?
No, we haven't.
Okay, cool. Anyway, yes, we'll work our way there. So minor spoilers. They she goes to see all the ifs, and Ryan Reynolds takes her there, and she's like, "Is this place magical?" And he's like, "It used to be." And it's Coney Island. And
Mm-hmm.
that was just like, oh, because I went as a really young kid. I don't have memories, but I have stuff from there. And
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that was like a destination. Like when you were a kid, like every kid wanted to go to Coney Island when we were young, especially, right? And I feel like now it's just kind of become a thing where I feel like kids nowadays would think it's lame because like Disney and Universal are so much cooler because they have all these characters they recognize and all these
Sure.
IP tie-ins, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that was just like really sweet. But then it's like the fact that it was a retirement home, for all the ifs. And
It's the
like,
best. Yeah.
it's such that whole sequence I really love. But if I can pick one specific scene, it's like the big musical number they do to the Tina Turner song where she's got like the old school MC kind of outfit on, and she's doing like the old school like kind of like pre-war era dancing with like the entire cast of ifs. Like that was the first scene that made me like really just like hit me emotionally. I was like crying so hard that
It
whole
was
time.
really
It was just
cool.
adorable, and it was just
Yep.
so sweet and so wholesome. It's funny because my partner Sophia saw it with me and went to the bathroom during that moment. Unfortunately, they missed it, but they came back and I was just like all red and wet, and they were like, "Dude, what the hell happened?" While I was gone. Like they were dancing, they were all smiling. It was so cute.
So this will add to it for you.
Okay.
So John Krasinski, that was a tribute to his mother. Well, and I think she's still with us, right? But
yeah.
So, but it was in honor of her because she loved that song when they were young, and they like when he was young. That's a song that he just remembers being on all the time.
Yeah.
And so he wrote to the estate of Tina Turner, who passed away last year, and was like, this is like a centerpiece of my movie, but the whole movie's predicated on like this scene and having this little girl like embrace something that you wouldn't think would be a song she would love, right? And do this. And he was like, I will get on a Skype call and explain everything to you of how we're going to do this and all of it. And like, he was just really set on having that specific song in the movie awesome. For his mother. And obviously they did it, which was really cool. So yeah, I love stories like that out of movies where you find out that there's just something that's like, you know,
I
really
figure there
meaningful.
must have been a deliberate choice there, but that's really beautiful. And you know, like I feel like at this point I've established I love a good needle drop in a movie. Like nothing gets me more hyped up than hearing just a really well placed song that's familiar to us in a movie, and that was one of the best I've seen in a long time. It was really great.
It was, and there have been some really good ones this year, actually. That we've seen. So let's talk. So favorite scenes. I guess mine. We talked the grandmother one, but also like mine is like right prior, I think, to what you're getting at. Although I love that scene as well. But when she learns that she can transform the entire retirement home with her imagination.
Oh my god, it was great.
And it was basically a full-scale renovation in real time that Ryan Reynolds is running away from. And, you know, it was just great. Also the hints, since we're in spoiler territory, like looking back, the hints Ryan Reynolds drops along the way, that character. Are because he'll say things to her like, "Oh, it's coming back to you now, is it?" You know, and things like that. And you can tell, but you can hear the tinge of like super bitterness, right, and hurt in his voice. So very subtly, it's great. It's a great performance.
I feel like this is gonna be a good one to rewatch because I feel like there's gonna be hints of you can piece things together early now that you know and have the context, especially of like because even the way she renovated the home was very like, you know, like I said, like pre-war with all of like the tiling and the pink everywhere and like the giant grand ballrooms and everything. And it was just like I feel like the costume or the production design rather of this movie is gonna kind of be an unsung hero a little bit, and it's like genuinely really good.
It is. Yeah, it really is. And the design of like the ifs themselves as well. Really good. So just visually this movie's fantastic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's see, what else do we have here? So
I think all that's left for us is to rip the Band-Aid off and go full spoiler and talk about that.
I had one other question before we get to that. So as far as just being a kids movie, because so often, you know, we get in the business and we review movies for the site and for YouTube and for stuff, right? And we get caught up in this like whole is, you know, the performance is good, is the storytelling, the narrative, like, you know, blah blah blah. Is this just a good kids movie? Like, is this a fun kids movie that
absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I really think so. And I think it's like a really smart kids movie because we kind of live in like the dark ages, I feel like, of kids entertainment right now, where a
Mhm.
lot of it is just like overstimulating, just like trying to be as loud and in your face and whatever as possible, right? Like just the whole iPad baby
Right.
epidemic. And I
Yeah.
feel like this is a really good answer to that because it's a really smart movie that obviously we as adults enjoy a lot. And I think people like I cannot imagine going and seeing this movie with my child, how emotionally resonant that would be.
Mhm.
Um, and there, I will say, I have one kid review because there was like an infant in my theater,
Okay.
and they loved it. Like every
All
time a
right.
new if would show up, they make like a different noise.
Well,
They'd
that's
have
cool.
like a brand new reaction. But yeah, I think
And
it's really
yeah,
smart
I
for a
was,
kids
I
movie.
was thinking about it because we message as we often do. We'll text each other, right, to get first impressions.
Mhm.
And I know you had said that this movie like really impacted you in some ways, and I was thinking about that actually when I was in there because we chat a lot, but it's all the shit we end up doing together here. But
Right.
like from what you've told me, like I see like your relationship with your parents being similar to
Oh God. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't want to go down
Yeah.
that road. I don't want to get you there,
No,
but
you're fine.
I
You're
think,
fine. But yeah, it
but
was
I
very emotionally resonant for me
yeah,
specifically, and I saw a lot of my experience in that movie for sure.
and that's what was hard because for me it isn't that, and I'm not saying my parents did like a bad job or anything. My mom's amazing, right? But
Yeah.
it's a different dynamic
Mhm.
um than that. Like there was no constantly trying to bring out the like creative side and all of that, right?
Yeah.
It just wasn't that. Um so I thought about that right away.
Mhm.
Even when I was watching it before we were texting. So
It's
I
wholesome.
but I agree with you. Like it's a really good kids movie. What here's one of the criteria I use, and that is
Mhm.
this a movie you can a show in school and kids will actually enjoy? Yes to both. Like it's a kids movie
Yeah.
because it's appropriate for showing in this in the school building,
Mhm.
and also it I think kids will genuinely enjoy it.
Yeah.
So but I think that this movie will resonate a lot because it's got adults are going to think back and connect with their childhood, and that's always a way to get the feels out of people, right? And um, I think it does a really good job with that. So I do think as we move into a score here, and I
Mhm.
think that this movie deserves a little bit more love than it's getting.
I do too.
So when you look at the Metacritic's, Rotten Tomatoes, et cetera, it is in the high 40s.
That's insane to me because for it to be in the high 40s, that means a decent chunk of people are giving it threes and fours, and I can't see that.
Yeah, I feel like it deserves better than that. Is this the best movie we're going to see all year? No.
No, probably not.
It's not even the
Definitely
best
not
movie I've seen so far, you
yet.
know.
Yeah.
Um but I think this is a solid 6.5. I think we settled on that, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
I think some people are going to walk away saying this is an 8 or a 9 for me, and I think you're closer to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I'm on the higher end just because and a lot of it is just like emotional
Mhm,
resonance of just stuff that's like deeply personal to me. Dude, it's like they played like all the hits for me cuz like
yep.
do you know the scene when like the grandma the grand if I guess is listening to like
Mhm.
Dream a Little Dream of Me in there.
Oh, and
And
doing the
that's like
dance with her.
and that's right before yes, that's right before they
Yeah.
do that. My like right before my grandma passed, she told me and my mom like if you hear that song, like it's me saying like hey, I'm here. It's like me
Oh,
checking in.
wow.
So as soon as that started, I was like this is not fair, bro. Like this is
Right? Yeah.
I can't check this bias at the door.
Yeah,
You
no,
know
you
what I
can't.
mean?
That's impossible. And but that's movies at their best, right?
For sure.
Is tapping into those things.
Mhm.
They're supposed to make us feel things. Like,
Yeah,
and that's
and
one thing
this is
I
I
hate.
think this is a
Yeah.
very big like your mileage will vary depending on
Yep.
your experience, depending on your age and the mindset you go in with it, right?
Mhm.
And I totally understand that. Like I don't, you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
either way is fair.
I'm a massive believer that too too often now we as a society, and we're guilty of it too sometimes, we review movies on our site. But
Mhm.
um it's the first reaction, the first thing we do when we consume any type of media is to evaluate it rather than just experience it and
Yeah.
like enjoy it. It's meant to make you feel something, So let yourself do that. And it's okay to like something. So yeah, this movie is a bit messy at times in dialogue and some of the story beats, in my opinion, but it's still a really genuine, heartfelt story that I think is going to have a lot of value, especially for younger people or adults just looking to tap into being a kid again for 2 hours.
For sure.
So that's where I'm at. Okay, 6.5. I think that's, I mean, it's fair.
It is.
We'll go.
Yeah, and I think it averages out between where we're at. So
yeah. So
we're still much higher on it with that score than most people in the consensus, which
we're high enough right now. We're probably going to get ripped, but that's okay.
Right?
If we're getting ripped, that means people are watching. So
which I appreciate for sure. Can you believe this movie's more divisive on the review scale than Civil War? How did that happen?
I don't know. But Civil War like actively
what a weird
tried
year.
to not like take sides in anything, right?
That's true.
So I don't know. But I'm looking forward to watching that movie again on digital to see like
how you feel about it removed.
Yeah. Because I still think that a lot of people are going to put it in Oscar contender status, but
it's getting Best Picture nom for sure.
I think it is. I don't know if it'll win. I don't think it should, but it might. Okay, what's our next movie up? Are we doing
Furiosa is next week.
Furiosa,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe. Strangers or Quiet Day, one of those, or Quiet Place, sorry.
Quiet Place is in the end of June.
Okay, so that's ways out. So
yeah. So Furiosa will definitely be the next one. I'm hoping and planning on seeing, because this is just a big weekend, so I'm hoping to see The Strangers and what's it called? I Saw the TV Glow, I think, this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll get reviews.
Really
okay, sweet. Excited. So I don't think we'll talk about those as their own reviews, but when we get to our halfway year list, we'll definitely give those shout outs.
So we got Furiosa on the way, and then after that, I think we're into like Bad Boys territory and onward. So I've heard people that have seen screenings that say it's good.
Okay.
Just saying.
So, I'm always willing to like something. I never am going into something,
just shut your brain off. It's gonna be like buddy cop stuff back and forth, pew pew and all the stuff. It's just gonna be that. But you will need to watch the others before this, because it does have some story beats from especially the third one that carry in from what I've seen.
So. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, anyway, this is all stuff we can talk about off air. Thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that. But go see it. It's a good time, especially if you're just looking for a fun kid story. Like, you know, you won't be disappointed with that. All right,
for sure.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Take care, y'all.